The morning had started like any other for Kelly Ripa. The sun had barely risen, the New York streets still quiet, and the familiar routine of coffee brewing in the kitchen filled her home with warmth. Kelly loved these peaceful moments, the ones where she could simply enjoy the stillness before the whirlwind of her day. But that morning, everything felt different. Something in her chest felt tight, as if the air itself was waiting to break into a storm. She kept glancing toward the hallway where Mark Consuelos usually appeared, half asleep, hair a mess, walking around like a handsome zombie who desperately needed espresso. It was one of the small things she loved about him, how he could look effortlessly charming even when his brain wasn't fully awake. But today, he wasn't there, and that absence felt unreal. Kelly called his name once, trying to sound casual. No answer. She called again, louder, a little sharper. Still nothing. That's when the uneasy feeling in her stomach turned into something colder. She walked toward their bedroom, the quietness growing heavier with every step. And there he was, Mark, sitting on the edge of the bed, elbows on his knees, hands covering his face. His breathing was slow, but not steady. His shoulders moved as if each breath was a battle. Kelly froze for a second. Mark was rarely shaken by anything. This was not normal. She rushed toward him, trying to keep her voice steady, but her heart already racing. She placed her hand on his back and asked him what was wrong. Mark lifted his head slowly, and the look in his eyes made her chest tighten. He didn't look sick. He looked scared. It turned out that Mark had woken up with a sudden, sharp pain in his chest, the kind that makes a person instantly think of the worst. He felt dizzy, weak, and for a brief moment he even wondered if he was about to faint. It terrified him, not because of the pain itself, but because he didn't want Kelly to lose him. He didn't want their children to lose their father. That fear had wrapped around him so tightly he couldn't even speak at first. Kelly didn't hesitate. Her instincts took over. She held his face in her hands, telling him to breathe, telling him she was right there. She tried to sound calm, but inside she was unraveling. Her mind flashed through every possible scenario, some rational, some dramatic, some fueled entirely by love and fear. They immediately called a doctor, who urged them to come in for tests, and just like that, their entire day changed. Kelly grabbed her bag, Mark grabbed her hand, and they left the house, not knowing what was waiting for them. But they stayed close, fingers intertwined the whole way, both pretending to be stronger than they felt. Kelly kept cracking small jokes in the car, trying to make Mark smile. She teased him about how dramatic he was being, comparing him to a telenovela star having a dramatic fainting scene in a marble hallway. Mark rolled his eyes, because of course he did, but even then he smiled. That was Kelly's magic. She could turn fear into laughter with a single sentence. But when they walked into the medical center, the seriousness hit them again. The waiting room felt colder than usual, the chairs too stiff, the silence too heavy. Kelly kept rubbing Mark's arm, pretending to keep him calm, when truthfully she was doing it to steady herself. Hours passed. Tests were done, blood work, scans, questions. Mark joked once that he felt like a car going through a full inspection. Kelly responded that she hoped he still had a warranty. The nurses laughed. Mark tried to laugh too, but beneath the humor was the steady thrum of fear neither of them wanted to confront. Finally, they were asked to wait for the doctor to return with results. That was the longest stretch of silence Kelly had endured in a long time. She kept glancing at Mark, studying every detail of his face. She thought about their years together, the wild adventures, the arguments, the laughter, the late-night talks, the mornings when he'd bring her coffee before she even opened her eyes. She realized in that sterile, quiet room just how deeply woven he was into every part of her life. When the doctor finally entered, Kelly stood up so quickly she nearly tipped over a chair. Mark reached for her hand again, but she was already bracing herself, breath held tight in her chest. The doctor sat down, looked through the papers, and peeled away the tension with a single sentence. "It's not life-threatening." Kelly's knees almost gave out. She exhaled so loudly the doctor turned to her with a soft smile. Mark squeezed her hand, trying to reassure her, even though the adrenaline had drained him completely. The doctor explained that Mark had experienced a sudden stress-induced chest spasm, not dangerous, but definitely painful and frightening, something that could happen when exhaustion and overworking stack up. It was a wake-up call, a serious one, but not the tragic news their minds had feared. Kelly covered her face with her hands and started to laugh, the kind of laugh that comes with relief, panic, love, and exhaustion all mixed together. Mark pulled her into his chest, whispering that he was fine, that he wasn't going anywhere, that she was stuck with him for decades more, whether she liked it or not. And then Kelly cried. Not loud, not dramatic, but soft, heartfelt tears that she couldn't hold back anymore. She told Mark that for a moment she felt like her world had cracked open. She told him she couldn't imagine life without him. She told him he scared her in one morning than their kids had scared them in all their teenage years combined. Mark held her tightly, stroking her hair, reminding her how strong she was, how strong they were together. He joked that if he ever gave her another scare like this, she had permission to hide all his gym clothes so he couldn't work out for a month. Kelly said she would hide more than his gym clothes. She would hide him from himself if she had to. They left the hospital with a new sense of gratitude. Mark had to rest for a few days, take it easy, slow down the pace he usually pushed himself into. Kelly took charge like an adorable but determined general. She made him herbal tea, forced him to sit on the couch, and banned him from doing anything stressful. Mark claimed he was already stressed from all the relaxing. Kelly ignored him with the confidence of a woman who had won this battle long before it began. The funny part was, even in the middle of this health scare, their love somehow deepened. Mark realized how fiercely Kelly cared for him, and Kelly realized how much of her strength came from having his steady presence beside her. They spent the next few days laughing, teasing, falling asleep on the couch, watching movies, and appreciating the simple things they sometimes overlooked in the rush of their careers and responsibilities. Kelly later shared the story, her voice trembling with emotion as she described the moment she thought she might lose the man who had been her partner through every chapter of her life. But she also shared the relief, the gratitude, and the reminder that life is fragile and love is the glue that keeps people standing even when fear tries to break them. She told the world that moments like this make you hold your loved ones a little closer, laugh a little louder, and cherish the quiet mornings that you used to take for granted. And Mark, well, he promised to take better care of himself. He promised to slow down. He promised to stop pretending he was invincible. But he also promised to keep Kelly teasing forever, because according to him, keeping her slightly annoyed was the secret to keeping their marriage lively. Their story didn't end in tragedy. It ended in love, in gratitude, in the realization that even the strongest couples get shaken sometimes, but they rise even stronger. And as Kelly said so beautifully, sometimes the scariest moments remind you just how deeply you're loved.